We are now going to be moving on to our next very exciting group and company of the day, of the session, and that is going to be Careers at Sea with the wonderful Susan and also Harry, who managed to make it. He's had a bit of a journey getting here today, but you are both with us. So welcome to you both. How are you doing today?
Yes, very
All
good, thank you.
Yes, good. Not too nervous.
No.
We're all good.
Okay for now.
Oh, fabulous stuff. Well, we'll make you feel as at home as possible. So we just wanted to know a couple of things about you. So maybe, obviously we know your names, but if we could just have your titles, your roles, and a little bit about what you do.
My name's Susan. I work at the Merchant Navy Training Board, and part of my role is Careers at Sea promotion. So this covers predominantly cadetships and ratings aboard ships, and really selling and showing off the wonderful world of opportunities at sea, but also within maritime in the industry as well. So my role covers that promotion in the UK, but also managing what we call our Maritime Educational Foundation cadets. So my role's split in two, but really today we're here to talk about Careers at Sea and the opportunities.
Wonderful. And Harry?
So I'm Harry. I'm a newly qualified deck officer. So I deal with the navigation of the vessel, maintaining the safety, and take orders from the captains. Yeah.
Great stuff. And how are you finding your first role?
Well, I haven't been out to sea yet, so I'm still
No.
waiting to go away, but the training was really good.
Yeah,
So,
practicing on land.
Yeah, quite a lot of practicing, simulator work, Yeah,
I bet. And I guess, the first question, maybe Susan, you'll know a little bit more about this at this moment in time, but what are the opportunities for people who might want to work at sea?
Yeah, sure. So the entry pathway really that we try to promote is this cadetship that Harry has been through. It's a 3-year programme that's fully funded by a company, and there's a bursary as well whilst you're doing the training. And that can be in either deck officer role, which is what Harry has completed. There's an engineering officer cadetship, and there's also an electrotechnical officer cadetship. So there's 3 different options there. And this hands-on training goes between life at sea on board a ship. That can be a cruise ship, a bulk carrier, offshore support vessels, ferries, everything that encompasses the Merchant Navy, and studies at college. So you have the opportunity to gain the educational qualifications, but also the professional seafaring qualifications, and you walk away with your certificate of competency, which is given by the Maritime Coast Guard Agency. So this experience is invaluable, and it really gives you an opportunity to see the world, but to learn some really fundamental life skills. So beyond the cadetship, you can then go, come back to land. So it sounds very funny to say to people who are not necessarily in the industry, but you come back to land, and then there's a world of opportunity within the maritime industry, from maritime law, insurances, ports, auditing teams. There is so many different opportunities within the industry, and we are an island nation, and we're very dependent on our maritime industry and the seafarers as well that bring everything into our islands.
Yeah, I'm sure. And if someone was looking to maybe get into Careers at Sea from a school level, what would you say would be their best bet? How could they go about researching and starting to look into what part of this industry would they like to be in?
So Careers at Sea, we provide sort of an unbiased, industry-wide overview of exactly what the entry routes are. There are various different ways to apply for a cadetship. That can be either through a company directly, through a training management company, and they would then guide and support everybody through their training as well. Also attending open days at the maritime colleges. There's various within the UK, is the best way, I think, to go into the colleges and see exactly what training would look and feel like. It also is an opportunity that takes you away from home. So if you want that university feel and gain that independence, but not necessarily go to university itself, it's a really fantastic way to start taking those steps towards leaving home and building that career path for yourself.
Yeah, because it's a scary thing, isn't it, leaving home for the first time?
Yeah.
So, but I think it's a rite of passage, isn't it? Almost, really. Harry, how did you find leaving home, or have you not left yet?
No, I left home. Yeah. So I went deep sea. So normally your sea phase is split up into around 3 phases, but due to COVID, I did it in 2 phases. So I did one contract, which was 5 months, and the second, which was around 8 months, to get my 12 months sea time. But Actually, it takes about 2 weeks to get, settled into the crew life, ship life, or whatever. But once you've settled in, you make some really good friends. You're constantly learning, so it's kind of, as bad as it sounds, your family or like your friends, it's kind of on the back of your mind because you're so busy. The ship never stops moving, it never stops working. It's a 24-hour factory, really. So, and time flies by. It really does. You're constantly busy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've made some good friends along the way.
Yeah, lifelong friends. And
Yeah.
the best thing is, it's all throughout all ranks, and they're always there to help and support you. I never found it difficult going away to seeing them just because I had the right support there, the right crew. So, can't fault it.
Yeah. Were you a little bit nervous at the start?
Yeah, I was absolutely petrified because I flew out to Singapore to join the vessel. I'd gone on holiday, but it was nothing, like going to Singapore on your own or anything like that. And I ended up meeting one of the officers in the airport just out of accident, really, and was like, "Oh, where are you going?" And just explained, and then he said, "Oh, well, just follow me," and then you just kind of get looked after. So you're not really left on your own as a trainee officer. There's always going to be somebody there to guide you, take you through the steps, take you through the process. So it does take the nerves off you, for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing to have someone, look after you as far as Singapore. I went to Sheffield Uni and I was, crying in my room for 3 weeks, you know. So to go to Singapore is amazing.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings me on to my next question then, is where else have you travelled? Where have you been lucky enough to go on your...
There's not many places really I haven't been. Like I said, flew out to Singapore, been to China twice, been to Taiwan twice, been to Vancouver, Brazil, Norway, Flushing in the Netherlands, at Vancouver, yeah. So there's a lot of places covered. Japan I signed off in as well, so loads of places. And prior to COVID, we could get shore leave in all these countries, but just recently because of COVID, that's not been possible. However, now, different countries are all starting to lift their requirements. You can start to get shore leave again. And that's definitely gives you such a huge break when you are, when you have been on the vessel for say a month. You can go off for a few hours, come back to the ship, do your work, and if you want to go away, back on shore again, you can. So it's quite nice to have that break in different countries, which sounds quite weird.
Yeah, I bet. No, it sounds very lovely.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the work that you do is extremely difficult, but it must be nice to have that break and to experience a new place.
No, that's it precisely, because on a ship, you're always working, everything. It can be quite a stressful environment at times. It is a very busy environment. So the weird thing is you'll come off your watch after 4 hours where you could have been in the South China Sea navigating around 70 fishing vessels, constantly having to think and manoeuvre the vessel, and then you can literally come off watch and you just sat outside on the back of the ship watching the sunset in 30-40 degree heat.
Yeah.
Or you come off watch and you're all having a barbecue on the back of the ship on a Friday night. It's all the crew together, music, look, I love the life. Yeah, can't fault it.
Yeah, well, you're selling it to me, so I don't know how everyone else feels wherever they're watching it in from. That's amazing. And what about you, Susan? Do you have any fun travel tales?
So I entered the industry slightly differently. I did do the traditional university route, and I joined through the compliance world, which doesn't throw everybody, but actually it gave me a lot of travel. So I went on board ships in an auditing capacity, and when I went on board, maybe not quite as far as Asia in my travels, but definitely a lot around Europe and the US. And you're working with people all over the world, and it's not just being able to see and experience the world through this career choice, it's also working with those people too, and learning about the different cultures and different traditions that all comes together on board the ship. You are there for a common goal and purpose, and I think it takes out any sort of nationality. You are there for one reason, and really it's amazing how many different people from different parts of the world can come and work together on board a ship, and those experiences at sea that you mentioned, when you have that, it really is quite something, and it's hard to describe, but it's really something that from my time when I have been out at sea and been part of the team, it really is special.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I must admit, you feels like you're just one big group. You're all striving for the same goal, and no matter your rank or what you're doing on board, there is that just nationality culture. It all just good. It's pushed aside, and you all just get on like one big family. Yeah. Yeah,
you're all in the same boat.
Yeah, quite literally.
You're sick of the puns in the
there's
in
a
your
lot
line
with
of
this
work.
industry.
Well, that sounds wonderful that so many people from different places all come together for for that same goal. And I guess that brings me on to my next question is, you were mentioning that you work with lots of different people whilst you're on the ship. Well, what does your day-to-day routine look like on the ship for yourself, Harry?
On the ship, so every officer has their own watch, so it tends to be 4 hours on, 8 hours off on the vessel. So depending where you work, it may be different rotations, but usually deep sea, that's the routine. So if you're 4 hours on watch, you're navigating the vessel, ensuring it's following the route. You know, you carry out collision avoidance with other vessels, ensuring you don't collide, I should say. That sounds bad. But yeah, so, you know, keeping a proper lookout, watching and monitoring other vessels' movements. And then after that, you might do a couple of hours of paperwork, getting the vessel ready for coming into port, maybe updating publications, and ensuring that all the safety equipment on the vessel is maintained to a high standard. And then after that, once you finished your work, you can either go relax in your room, go meet other crew members. You know, like we had a PlayStation on board, we had a gym, we had basketball courts, we had a ping pong table. So there's a lot to do. You know, there's always somebody, you know, either off watch or, you know, just getting ready for a watch. So there's always somebody there you can just talk to, have a laugh with. Yeah, so coming off watch, go sleep and chill out, really. That's it.
Yeah. Watch the sunset, as you said.
Quite literally. Yeah, have a cup of tea.
Yeah, well, that sounds perfect. So yeah, it really does sound quite dreamlike. I'm sure there's lots of hard elements to it. Is there any challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis, if you deep sea, I wouldn't say there's a great deal of challenges because it's, you know, you're in open ocean. But I think the thing that gives you the biggest buzz is when you're coming into port or you're leaving port, because you've got to have your checklists out. You have to be on your A game. You know, getting the vessel ready, set up, calling the appropriate departments, following the captain's orders. He might want the engine started, you know, an hour before departure. So it's quite logistical, really, because you're having to try and figure out, right, do I need to prioritise this first or this first? You know, so there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes just to get the vessel prepared, and it's, you know, my responsibility if I'm on watch to have that all prepared and sorted. Yeah. And
what about yourself, Susan? What challenges do you face day to day?
I mean, talking from the side of the cadetship, I think some of the challenges that somebody looking to do this might face would be that element of travel. There is that, you know, you are away from home sometimes at events that go on and you sort of could feel like you miss out. So that is definitely something through a cadetship that could be faced. Also, there is an educational side to this as well. So you do need to complete courses and college work in order to get the qualifications. But I know, Harry, you had some good interactions with your fellow cadets to get over those.
Yeah, so we, you know, especially when you're at college, it is very intense. You know, there's a lot of exams, but in all honesty, if you just put your head down and you work, you will pass these. And yeah, like I said, there is a lot. But we formed buddy groups, study groups, and we'd study together, ask each other questions, and test each other, and that was the best method for us, for sure. Yeah.
And then progression, what might that look like for you?
In terms of progression, so when you're deep sea, so you've got third mate, second mate, chief mate, captain. So my licence covers me up to second mate. Then I'll have to come back to college for a few months to take my chief mate exams. So the chief mate, he's really involved with the stability of the vessel, figuring out how we're going to load the cargo best so it doesn't overstress the vessel. And then from chief mates, you go to captain, and captain's another exam you have to take, competency exam. And after that, no more exams. But yeah, third mate tends to be just navigation and updating the safety equipment. Second mate, deep sea, tends to do the passage planning, ensuring all navigational publications are up to date. Yeah.
And is there anything that you can compare that, you know, you'll do in your exams that you can compare to something you did at school? Are there any subjects that come in useful, for example?
Maths, for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I was never a really intellectual person, but I always just put my head down and studied. So, you know, as much as the maths is really essential, if I came out with maths as a basic grade, you know, I passed it, and I didn't have a massive struggle with learning the maths. I had good support around me to ensure that I passed the exams. So yeah, maths is the biggest one, really. Geography, I suppose.
Yeah, of course.
You know, your oceans.
Basics, yeah.
Definitely, yeah. But yeah, definitely maths, physics, them types of subjects, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe someone who's interested in maths and geography, for example, at this age of of school age that could be
Yeah.
quite good.
I think they're the
as well.
fundamentals, and to get onto a cadetship, so everyone can walk away with this certificate of competency to be an officer on board. But the educational qualification can be at various levels. So you can go in at HNC level, and so basically level 3, level 4 and level 5, and some places even also a university route. So if it still sounds good, you can still do this and come out with a bachelor's degree at the end too. And that really is based off of what that individual's best path is. So if a foundation degree might be a bit too, you haven't necessarily you struggle more with maths or some physics elements, then you might go on to the advanced diploma course. But they can really pick that based off of you as an individual, and there's options, which is really good. There's also what we call a pre-cadetship. So that starts as well at 16, and that gives a bit of a taster into cadetships and an understanding before sort of committing to the full 3-year course that Harry's done. And that is at various colleges, again within the maritime colleges, and that's a really good entry pathway, or even an opportunity to see what it's like. But the very vast majority of people that do these pre-cadetships go on to take a full cadetship at the end.
Yeah, so it could be a great place to start with if they start with the
Yes,
cadetship first.
Absolutely. But if you want to go straight into a cadetship, the minimum is 4 GCSEs, 1 being maths and 1 preferably a science being physics, because that will help in the future. But that's the sort of the minimum entry requirement. And from there up, if you take A levels, you can go in maybe a foundation degree or degree, depending on the grades.
Okay, so that's in terms of the grades. What would you say in terms of personality, behaviour, traits? What would make you someone who would fit in really well to have a career at sea? Either of you, really. Floor's open.
I'd say you've definitely got to have a calm personality about you, because you're going to get put into so many situations where it's just offbeat, really unexpected situations, and you do have to remain calm. You just have to say, right, let's take a step back, analyse the situation and take it from there. However, when you do your cadetship, they teach you to be like this. They teach you to stay calm, because you become competent, you become confident in your knowledge. So, it's kind of have any personality, but it will teach you, they will push you into that direction to have that calm persona, because at the end of the day, people look at myself or other officers as, how are you going to respond to an incident? That's our job. So, it is taught into you from day one, yeah. And you do a lot of simulator training as well. So, realistically, when an incident, hopefully it doesn't, but when an incident does occur, you've done it in the simulator, you've practiced it, quite a lot. So, you're ready to respond, which once again gives you that confidence. But yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult to specify, because everybody's so unique when they come forward for interviews to do a cadetship, but there's no work experience necessarily required for this. You don't need to have done anything really related to the sea to start a cadetship. Nobody's going into it expecting you or anybody to know anything at all. It's really just about having maybe some of those qualities, the ability to stay calm, or if you can prove how you've been in a situation that you have managed to turn around if it wasn't quite for you. It's some of the softer skills really, but there's nothing prescribed with this, because everybody's unique, but it's just the understanding for everybody that you will be away from home for a period of time. So that element of independence is important.
Yeah, that's needed. So a calm head.
Yes.
And the knowledge that you will be away from home. Yeah. And how do you deal with that? Because obviously you said that some lovely person helped you in the airport. But if that person hadn't been there, for example, what would you have done? How would you navigate?
That's a fair question. So we have our cadet training managers or cadet officers within each company. So they're always on hand 24/7, especially when they know you're going away. So they'll book your flights, they'll book your transport, and they're pretty good at knowing what's going on at every single point of your travel. So like, for example, when on my second contract I went out, the taxi didn't arrive, so it was kind of just call the training officer, and she sorted it out straight away. There's always going to be somebody there to guide you at every single stage of the training, no matter what.
Yeah, that's really lovely to hear, because you might be in another job where a taxi doesn't turn up, for example, and you're like, oh, what do I do? But sometimes to have that structure around you can really help you maybe as well, which is it's good for people to know at home or at schools that that there is that support available at literally every step.
The training officers really care as well. It's not just a case of a tick box exercise for any of this. The training officers in the industry really care about people staying on track, doing well within their course. Obviously, that's in the best interest of every party involved, that everybody does well. But they really do help with those situations. If they know somebody's travelling where they're 8 hours ahead, there's always somebody to cover to make sure that even time isn't a limiting factor here. It's, on our website we say it's not 9 to 5, and that's the case for people at sea, but it's the case for people sort of supporting the training too. And they're always happy to help and support in any way, as is everybody involved. And there's various mentor schemes throughout the industry as well. So people might have their training officer, but they might also have somebody who gives up their time freely within the industry to mentor them, which is again invaluable support.
Yeah, I think a buddy or a mentor is really important, isn't it? Especially in your line of work where things can go a little bit or you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
But you'll never travel really on your own. I never travelled on my own. I always had a second. When I was training, there was always another trainee officer who was with me, and he was from my own college. So he was on the same flight. We got to the same destination, getting in the same taxi. So there's always two of you. For deep sea anyway. I can't talk if it's the North Sea or anything, but yeah. So you're never really alone.
Yeah. That's really good to hear, because it's scary stuff, isn't it? It's daunting, on trips like that.
This can start at 16. So cadetships generally you'll find that it's 18 plus, but it is possible to start this at 16. So straight out of school, if that is what people want, it's available to do. There's some more restrictions on travel and hours of work when you're under 18, but it is possible, and there are companies that do hire at 16. But it is a world that just opens up, and the fact that it's free, it opens it up to a lot of people as well. And you get the bursary for doing the training, which varies depending on the company, but really anywhere between the £800 to £1,000 per month would be a good sort of guide as to how much that would be on a monthly basis.
Yeah. That's really helpful as well. You're on the ship, so you're not going to be paying for your rent, for example. So I bet that's really, really nice to have as well, to spend your money in a new place as well.
And also not walking away with a student loan.
Well, that's a huge thing, isn't it? So many of us have it. And
Yeah.
No, that's really, really amazing to hear. And then in terms of, what was my question? My question was, in terms of, so I think, did you go to an open day, Harry? Did you ever attend one?
I went to Southampton's open day. Just drove myself down, I'd seen it being advertised. I thought, right, I'll go see what it's all about. And just from going to the open day, I think I doubled my knowledge of what the industry was about, just speaking to the lecturers that were there.
Yeah, what did you learn?
I just learned about how to get into it, where I need to be looking, what type of vessels do I want to go on, where do I want to operate? Do I want to operate coastal? Do I want to go in the North Sea, or do I want to go deep sea? And that was just told straight off the back by a lecturer, so information like that is so easily obtained by just going to the open days. You can put it in on the internet, questioning careers at sea, for example, or the Merchant Navy Training Board. And you will get a lot of answers, but sometimes it's just better. I personally like to get it in person, somebody actually telling me, this is what you need to do, have a look at this, have a look at that, contacting, networking.
You want to speak to a person,
and
it's all as one of our last guests was mentioning as well.
And definitely, and if anyone ever makes an inquiry through Careers at Sea, then we're more than happy to have the conversations. I think it's always easier, we depend a lot now on just finding stuff out on Google, but I think actually having those conversations and asking questions that you might not necessarily think of until you actually talk to somebody who's been through it is very important. It's something as well that we can get when people know they kind of want to go and do this, but they don't necessarily understand what would work for them or what type of ships. As I mentioned at the very beginning, that there's a range of different ships you can go on to. And some people are more suited towards passenger ships and going on to cruise vessels and ferries, and working their way up through guest interaction as well. They enjoy that element. Some people would prefer not to have to deal with guests and just get on with their job and their role and their tasks that they have in their training record book whilst they're at sea. And some people are with charity placements, and that you get a variety of different ship types. So with those, it's really, with those sorts of people, it's good to have the conversations with people who have experienced those things, so they can maybe start to make a decision of who they want to go through in terms of their company and their training provider as well.
So with the well, it's almost entertainment industry, isn't it? Really, that kind of cruise side of it. Is that, would you say, for someone who, is really led by people and really enjoys communicating with people, spending time with people?
Yeah, there's a whole other section of careers at sea, not just necessarily the officer route, but there's a whole host of different roles, from people who work in the catering side, or on the passenger ships, sort of the guest services, yes, absolutely, what we call ratings as well, who are non-officer level skilled workers that work with the officers on board. And entertainment, so any job really that exists on land will also exist at sea in some capacity. Now, not every ship will have all of them, but there will be somewhere out there a job. Pursers, HR, every element is possible to do at sea. And sometimes getting that experience on a ship can be completely different to being HR in a shoreside job. Bring a whole different element to your role and your knowledge as well moving forward. Yeah,
and it sounds like there's so many different career options that you can choose from. From officer to I guess kind of the catering side, all these different elements. So there really seems like there's something for everyone. So in terms of trying to find you online, how can we do so? Do we just go to the websites that Harry mentioned? Do you want to maybe say them once more?
Yeah, so careersatsea.org.uk is our website. So this is the impartial, full information about cadetships, ratings and other entry pathways, and you can contact us on there. Also on social media, it's @careersatsea for more information.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thank you both so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the session as much as I did. I've learned so much. And we have actually just put the website in the comments for anyone who is watching this, which you'll be able to see in the recording afterwards as well. But yes, thank you both so much for joining us.